2002, a 3-year-old boy was viciously attacked and killed by his father's pet tiger. No parent should ever hear that their child has died before them. And this terrible accident would have never happened if his father had never had that tiger as a pet in the first place. Exotic animals should never be kept as pets, not only because of the problems that they cause in captivity, but also the consequences that stem from those problems. However, there are currently laws being made to further prevent this problem, and there are things that we can do within our own community to further prevent people from becoming harmed or being harmed. Next slide. So some of the problems that come from the ownership of an exotic animal are the problems that come from captivity, both for humans and for animals. One of the problems for humans is that these animals are extremely expensive to take care of. For feeding, enclosure costs, and medical bills. What vet do you know nearby that takes care of a weird lizard from the Amazon? An example of some of these expenses is food. As you can see in the picture, there are 2 tigers. One adult tiger, on average, eats about 17.5 pounds of meat a day. Using the average price of a pound of meat in the US, which is about $4.50, a tiger, a fully grown adult tiger, can eat through $563 a week. That is extremely harmful to the average American who only makes $752 a week. Another more hidden cost is the risk of disease. Many of these animals carry diseases unknowingly. They do not present symptoms, but if humans come in contact with these diseases, they can be extremely lethal or even deadly. More on that later. The most obvious problem that comes from ownership of an exotic animal is the risk of attack. Many of the owners who have these animals right before they attack claim that their pets are tame and safe to be around humans and children. However, these animals are still that, wild animals. My brother is the owner of a Mexican king snake, an exotic animal. On 2 separate occasions, this animal has attacked both him and his friend Karina. He claims that though the animal appeared tamed and docile around him, but it still attacked anyway. Because it's a wild animal. If something gets too close to it, it's going to bite when it feels threat. Next slide, please. These problems aren't only for the humans, but also for the animals as well. Unfortunately, many exotic animals, due to their specialized needs, have poor health due to the owners not able to take care of them. For example, a tortoise, a big tortoise, requires super specific conditions to be able to live. They require desert-like environments, a proper temperature waiting pool so they don't get too cold or too hot, and an ultraviolet light. That's a lot of things, and not a lot of people know about these needs. And oftentimes, this poor health is often a cause of neglect. Neglect can often come from the owner not knowing enough about this animal to be able to take care of them, or simply because they're unable to take care of them because how expensive they are, or just not able to even get close to them because they get attacked. Another problem that comes on the animals is the breeding, forced breeding. Unfortunately, there are some people who want profit and will take any risk to obtain that. They will force breed 2 animals that would not normally breed in the wild to create a new hybrid. This hybrid often has a lower quality of life because of the huge risk from genetic diseases and disabilities. And it's really sad that people take advantage of these poor animals just for a profit. Speaking of that, another huge problem is the demand. Demand for exotic animals as pets has increased by a huge amount within the last couple of years. This comes from social media and media influencers showing off their pets or even encouraging the ownership of an exotic pet. This increase in demand can lead to neglect and captivity, but is also extremely harmful towards the animals still alive in the wild. It causes a huge strain on the species and on the environment that they live in. These problems can stem out into big consequences. Once again, these animals are extremely dangerous towards humans. Whether they have big teeth and claws or extremely potent venom. As you can see, 75 deaths are attributed to attacks from any kind of animal, exotic animal, as pets within the last couple of years. Unfortunately, most of those deaths have been children under the age of 10. Another more hidden danger is the disease. 90% of reptiles carry salmonella in their feces. The human doesn't necessarily have to ingest their droppings to contract it. They can just touch and accidentally rub their mouth or rub their eyes. And these exotic animals are also can commonly carry other diseases such as herpes B, monkeypox, and salmonellosis. Another big problem that most of you will be aware of is releasing them into the wild. Some owners are unable to take care of their pets anymore, so they just think it's an animal, it'll be fine in the wild, and they release it. This is a very bad thing to do. Just look at the Florida Everglades. They are suffering from huge amounts of invasive species due to people releasing their pets into the wild. One of these pets is a Burmese python. Just the other day, the largest Burmese python was caught in the Florida Everglades. She was 16 feet long and had 72 eggs inside of her. Another problem for the humans is the legal consequences. Some states completely ban the ownership of exotic animals. And if someone is caught with an exotic animal as a pet, they can be charged up to $25,000 in fees and fines, and can even have jail time based off the type of animal that they had and how long they had it for. Next slide. So, like I said, many states banned exotic animals as pets. All the states in blue are the ones that ban these animals. However, as you can see, Texas is orange. Currently in Texas, it is legal to own any sort of dangerous animal like a wolf, bear, tiger, lion, and other vicious beasts. The only thing you really need to own them is a permit, which doesn't cost much. However, things need to change, and they are. Within the last couple of years, because of the increased amount of attacks on small children especially, Texas lawmakers have been trying to improve laws for better regulations and restrictions on exotic pet ownership. They're sending people to survey enclosures, making sure that it's harder to obtain a license and obtain these animals, and stopping illegal dealership of these animals as well. Next slide. But there are things that we can do in our own community to help prevent this problem from growing even more. If you know a friend who is thinking about buying an exotic animal, try to convince them not to. Tell them about the risks and the expenses that come from the ownership of this kind of animal. And even if you cannot convince them not to get one, just tell them to do their research. Make sure that they're purchasing the correct animal, and make sure that they have the correct necessities to be able to care for this animal, so they do not risk it biting them or becoming neglected or releasing it into the wild. That's what my brother did whenever he researched his Mexican king snake. He found out that the snake was very easy for beginners and often didn't attack people, and it's not venomous. Another thing that we can do that's a little bit more easier is simply not to support shops that sell exotic animals as pets. There are some in the Friendswood area, and they do sell animals that are considered exotic. If you do not support them by buying animals there or products, the demand on these exotic animals will go down, which will not only prevent more animals from being sold, but also help release the strain that is on the species still alive in the wild today. Overall, the cons outweigh the pros when it comes to ownership of an exotic animal. The problems that come from it, as well as the consequences, are simply too risky to ignore. However, there are things that are being done in the law, but there's also things that we can do in our own community to help further prevent this problem. Even though it would be really cool to have a pet tiger, it's just not worth it. It's too risky to have someone be killed by this animal. But there are other ways to observe these magnificent animals and help them keep them safe, as well as keep us safe. But for right now, being a part of our own two separate worlds is probably the best for both of us.